it is very likely that Chris Curry is going to take the first rep as LSU's running back. With an LSU roster that has so many questions already answered, running back seems to be the one that keeps popping up in every conversation we have when people ask, who's going to be the starter? I mean, think about it. We know Miles Brennan's going to be the starting quarterback. We now know Liam Shanahan is going to be the center, and so the rest of the offensive line falls in place with Jason Hines and Ed Ingram as your guard, and Dare Rosenthal and Austin Deculus as your tackles. We know Arik Gilbert's going to be your starting tight end, and we know Jamar Chase. We know your top three receivers with Chase and Marshall and McMath. On the defensive side of the ball, we know all of that as well. Some people seem to think there might be an open spot opposite Derek Stingley, but it seems like that's going to be Cordell Flott, and then we'll figure out how other guys fit in, like Jay Ward, of course, Elias Ricks. But overall, we have all these answers to questions on this roster, except running back, because you have three returning guys that are all very talented and an incomer who's also very talented, but a newcomer, incoming freshman, but none of which have done much on the field. But the more you hear people talk about Chris Curry, the more it becomes clear that's the guy that they're leaning on. And I want to reference something that was written a few months back. If you remember, our friend Jeff Marks did a piece that ran in a 3-part series in The Advocate on the relationship between Joe Burrow and Ed Orgeron. And in this piece, it was divided into 3 parts. Recruiting Joe sort of winning the starting job, and then obviously the 2019 season winning the championship. Well, in that third piece, there's a part where they talk about, where Jeff writes about LSU getting ready to play the college football playoff semifinal against Oklahoma, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire had injured his hamstring, and the question was who was going to start at running back. Now, the point that Jeff was writing about was about Burrow's influence in making this decision. But the point I want to reference is who Burrow lobbied for. Let me read a brief excerpt, which will underscore the point. LSU had 2 heavily recruited freshmen, Tyron Davis-Price and John Emery, waiting in the wings. Conventional wisdom pointed to one of them. Joe Burrow did not. He wanted redshirt freshman Chris Curry and privately spoke up for him. Curry had barely played in 2 seasons. He was 4th string, but Joe felt he had earned the opportunity in practice. Quote, Chris was a scout team guy all year, and he never stopped fighting, Joe says. He didn't get discouraged. All he did was work really, really hard. I wanted to reward that, and I'm glad the coaches felt the same way. He goes on. Curry got the start, and the selection worked out well. He displayed an impressive combination of flash and physicality, rushing for 90 yards on 16 carries. LSU dominated from start to finish and left Atlanta with a 63-28 blowout win. Joe Burrow, before the college football playoff semifinal, went to his coaches and lobbied for Chris Curry. That screams volumes about Curry. With that nugget tucked away in the back of my head, I've always thought of that, and with that there, listening to Ed Orgeron today talk about Chris Curry made that even more impactful. Listen to what Coach O said today.
I expect a breakout year. I think that, and talking to Steve and talking to Kevin, they really like the work that they put in. We really like the attitude that Chris has brought to our football team. You talk about a candidate for number 18. He would be one for sure because of his integrity to what he's done. You know, most guys would have transferred. And, Chris is from Florida. He didn't give us not even one excuse. Stayed here and said, Coach, I got you. Watch what happens when I get my turn. And he was right.
Integrity. Candidate for number 18. Most guys would have transferred. Chris never thought about it. He said, Coach, I got you. Wait till I get my chance and I'll show you. And he was right. You have the 2 most important people in LSU football lobbying for Chris Curry. Joe Burrow and Ed Orgeron. One of them's the head coach. When you look at numbers last year, Ty Davis Price had 64 rushes for 295 yards and 6 scores. Curry and Emery were what and what. Curry had 38 carries, Emery had 39. Curry had 189 yards, Emery had 188. Curry didn't score, Emery scored 4 times. But Curry, to me, seems poised to be the next great LSU story. Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who last year nobody was thinking, but he thought he'd be a first-round pick or an all-SEC back. Come on, y'all. Everyone was excited to see the freshman. And look at the season Clyde had. A year before that, here comes Nick Brissett, who waited his turn, tore his ACL as a freshman, patiently waited behind Leonard Fournette, Darius Guice, finally got his chance to be the guy and had a 1,000-yard season. Awesome. And typically at LSU, with Les, they rotated so many backs. Guys played like Ware, Hilliard, Ford, Blue. Even when they had all those guys, everybody ate. I mean, there have been occasions where like Jakari Gore or, recently Leonard Fournette, guys in that position have transferred, but that's been the exception. Most guys have stayed and maybe left early for the draft or whatever it may be. But I think all 3 of those running backs are going to play and play a lot this year. But I think Chris Curry, based on what guys like Joe Burrow said about him, what Ed Orgeron said about him, he's the guy that looks like he's poised to emerge, and he is going to be the guy that gets the first carry of the season for LSU, and I hope he has a big year. Big words today from LSU head coach Ed Orgeron about Chris Curry. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.